Good afternoon, and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Karan Loda, coming to you live from Studio B in USC Annenberg's Media Center.
And I'm Amy Contreras. It's Tuesday, September 30th. On today's show, the U.S. government is heading toward a potential shutdown over budget confrontations. USC's fall 2025 admissions data revealed that it's continuing legacy admissions. And Voice of America is facing media restrictions by the Trump administration. All that and more on
From Where We Are.
But first, today's headlines.
A federal judge in Boston ruled today that the Trump administration violated the First Amendment of the Constitution in its targeting of non-U.S. citizens who protested the war in Gaza. The judge criticized the administration's deportation policies as threats to free speech.
The midnight deadline for the federal government to reach a budget agreement is fast approaching. If no agreement is reached, the government would face what is called a shutdown. Some, but not all, federal services would temporarily stop. Public safety and, for example, Social Security would continue. Frank Lutz is a political consultant and pollster.
What is clear is that both sides are not seemingly not that interested in making an agreement. And what I see from my polling and my focus groups is that the American public has had enough of both sides. So I'd say to you that both sides are going to take the brunt of this, and it's just going to make Americans even more cynical and even more angry at Washington, D.C.
The federal government will once again begin processing deferred action for childhood arrivals applications for first-time applicants. The Justice Department outlined a proposal on Monday that stated it would reopen DACA applications for the first time in 4 years in every state except for Texas. However, Texas residents who already have DACA could still be protected from deportation, but would not qualify for employment authorization.
The LA Public Press published a sensitive and horrific story of USC graduate Iris Kim being sexually assaulted and harassed. She alleged that a USC Marshall professor abused her 5 times over 2 years. In 2021, Kim sued the professor and USC after receiving no response from her complaint to USC's Title IX office. Internal emails of the lawsuit revealed secret messages between the professor, Title IX officials, and the Marshall School Dean Jeffrey Garrett that suggested the professor retire in exchange for a cease to the investigation.
Healthcare funding is a major sticking point. In the instance of a shutdown, federal workers and federally funded programs could face various consequences. Sara Alvarez has the story.
With a midnight deadline, the clock is ticking as Congress tries to come to an agreement on a federal funding plan. Republicans need at least 7 Democrats in the Senate to agree on a spending bill in order to pass it. But the two parties can't seem to compromise. As Tuesday goes on, the U.S. braces for a so-called government shutdown. As Republicans ask to extend current funding, Democrats stand their ground. They demand over $1 trillion to extend Obamacare subsidies and rollbacks on cuts to healthcare programs like Medicaid. Diego Andrades is the assistant director of the USC Dornsife Center for the Political Future.
It's possible that any approval of the budget would be an approval of what the Trump administration is doing. So you already have a very large part of the Democratic caucus that might not want to approve the budget because they don't approve of Trump more generally.
He explains how students could be affected if an agreement isn't reached.
In California, you might see it as it relates to if your student loans. Like if you're trying to get your loans moved to a specific plan, there are already backlogs.
Similarly, the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, opened on September 24th.
And if somebody managing those applications is not essential, then you wouldn't see those processes quickly. So it would take some time before students in California see it. But it would still affect them nonetheless.
President Trump told reporters at the White House that the administration could use federal layoffs and a funding lapse to make cuts to programs favored by Democrats if the shutdown happens. He called the government shutdown probably likely. USC professor of the practice of governance, Frank Zerunian, explains why the phrase shutdown might not be the most accurate.
First of all, it is not a full shutdown. By law, it is really a partial shutdown. So don't worry about, for example, your safety, meaning that all law enforcement agencies, federal law enforcement agencies, will be active and are not affected by this.
While essential services will continue operating, many services could be significantly reduced due to this disagreement. Professor Zarunyan believes this topic of government funding is more of a partisan issue.
That being said, unfortunately, we live in a very polarized world politically, and the demands on both sides are relatively attached to political narratives. And it is hard to give up those political narratives for those people that are on both sides of this negotiation.
Just after 12:01 Wednesday morning, around $400 million worth of compensation could be put on hold for around 750,000 federal employees. Tensions are rising as we wait for negotiations to take place. The clock is ticking, and millions of Americans are waiting to see how this battle within the Senate affects them. For Annenberg Media, I'm Sara Alvarez.
A year ago today, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill that prohibits legacy admissions for private nonprofit institutions. That bill, AB 1780, went into effect this month. USC is one of those private institutions, but President Kim isn't too worried. Savannah Blake has the story.
USC's admission data for 2025 released today, and the legacy admits were nowhere near zero. According to the data, nearly 15% of students in the fall 2025 class were legacy admits. In yesterday's interview with the university president, Byung-Soo Kim, he made it clear that legacy admissions weren't going anywhere.
We always talk about the Trojan family, and all of us understand it really does mean something. And it seemed perverse to us that in considering two equally qualified applicants, that we couldn't consider that one of them had a relative who had attended USC and really, really wanted to come here as their first choice.
California plans to ensure compliance, but there's not much consequence for failing to adhere to the law. Next year, USC will have to publicly disclose additional information about legacy admits. Kim made it clear USC was prepared to do this. Ayane Francis, an MFA student, and Lewis McIntyre, an acting, stage, and screen major, didn't care too much about the decision at first.
I don't mind legacy admits because I feel like everyone has a pretty good chance of getting into the school. I mean, I know it's a low acceptance rate, but honestly, if you put your effort into that application, you just have to let whatever happens happen.
I myself am not a legacy admission, so I put in the work. I auditioned for the SDA program and I got in.
After giving Francis and McIntyre additional information, the conversation took a turn.
Now that I know the full scope of the situation, the only thing I can say is, fuck the legacy admissions. We can't have favoritism here and not favoritism there.
The two said they're glad that Newsom is giving students a fair chance in the admissions process, but they were disappointed that USC isn't doing the same.
Yeah, no, USC, you gotta get rid of that. I'm sorry. Get rid of the legacy thing.
Fight on.
President Kim, on the other hand, isn't concerned that the choice will inhibit USC students from admitting a diverse range of applicants.
The thing that's really important to emphasize about this decision is that in order to get into USC, you absolutely have to be extremely well qualified. I think what we wanted was to continue our holistic review process where we consider that one piece of information as just a very small piece of an applicant's overall context, experience, interests, and fit with USC.
Kim emphasized that by continuing to allow legacy admissions, USC can foster the Trojan family. He says that those who grew up in the Trojan family, meaning they're a legacy student, have a deep connection to the school and will bring that spirit to USC. The upcoming 2026 admission cycle will be the first affected by the bill. In June, there will be more information available on how it affected the demographics of incoming classes. For now, it seems that USC won't see much change. For Annenberg Media, I'm Savannah Blake.
Bad Bunny is set to headline the Super Bowl 60 halftime show at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. While many are thrilled, some USC students have a lot to say about the controversy surrounding Bad Bunny's selection. Emily Nichols has the story.
Today at the USC Village, I spoke with students about how they felt about Bad Bunny headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. USC graduate student Vanessa Newman is excited to see Bad Bunny take the stage in February.
I think it's really exciting. I'm excited to see the performance.
While there's much excitement, there has been increased controversy about Bad Bunny headlining on social media due to language discrimination and racism. Despite this, students such as sophomore Adana Todd looks forward to Bad Bunny stepping onto the world's biggest stage and shedding light on immigration issues and disparities the Latinx community has experienced.
Knowing the history of the NFL and the halftime shows in the past, censoring is obviously there. So I do hope he touches on the immigration issue, the ICE raids, and the fact that he's not been performing in America since his residency in Puerto Rico as a political statement. I hope he touches on that.
While students are excited for Bad Bunny's performance, there is great disappointment with social media users stating they will not listen to the halftime show because it will not be performed in English. Many students, including junior Sofia Castillo, disagrees with this take and believes this is a great opportunity to celebrate Latin American music and culture on a grand platform.
I feel like everybody consumes music or media in other languages. It's part of the construction of music itself and art. I think it's also a good exposure for people that don't know his music and don't know Latin American music.
Professor Alan Lopez agrees that this is a great opportunity to learn about Latin American culture, even if it is in a different language.
But I think the people who choose not to watch this performance or to not watch on purpose, I think they're doing themselves a disservice, because it's really important to, listen to musicians, listen to culture, listen to the message that is being expressed through the music. And a lot of that message is about Latina culture, and also, Puerto Rico is part of the United States, and that is an experience, an American experience. Even though it is in a different language, it is the United States. It is, what Americans are going through, and that is expressed through his music.
Sophomore Adana Todd looks forward to Bad Bunny using his platform to shed light on ICE raids and immigration issues across the country, while also celebrating diverse cultures around the world. For Annenberg Media, I'm Emily Nichols.
I'm Amy Contreras. We're glad you're with us on From Where We Are.
And I'm Karan Loda. It's 36 minutes past the hour. Coming up, Voice of America is facing an uncertain future, and so are local programs supporting housing and mental health in minority neighborhoods.
Voice of America historically served countries where the press faces censorship and suppression. Today, it is facing restrictions within the United States. As their operations are cut in America, countries that relied on their broadcasting suffered too. Hannah Dean has the story.
In March, President Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which heads Voice of America. Nearly 1,300 employees were put on administrative leave. Today, Annenberg's Professor Jeffrey Cowan and Professor Nick Cole hosted Voice of America's press freedom editor Jessica Juriat. Juriat is a plaintiff in Voice of America's employee-headed court case against the defunding and dismantling of the agency. Professor Cowan, who previously served as the 22nd director of Voice of America, talked about the importance of the network.
America wants to have a voice in the world, but also because people all around the world, in different ways, in different times, in different languages, need information that they can trust. And that should be part of America's legacy. My mantra for Voice of America was to provide the people of the world with the information they need in the language that they speak over transmission systems that they can receive.
Since March, Voice of America went from a weekly 2,000 hours of broadcasting in 49 languages to less than 20 hours in only 4 languages. Monday, U.S. District Judge Royce Lamberth in Washington, D.C. ruled against President Trump's layoffs in the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which parents Voice of America. However, the future of Voice of America is still unclear.
I think something in a smaller form will help to replace them, but nothing will equal them.
Furthermore, the dismantling of Voice of America mirrors a decline in newsrooms across America under current administration, felt especially at the local level.
We live in Los Angeles, where we used to have many newspapers. Now we've declined enormously, but the LA Times, maybe 20 years ago, had, a newsroom of 1,200, 1,400 people. Now it's down to like 300. That's a big change. Orange County alone at the LA Times has something like 150 people. Now there isn't really an Orange County bureau. La Opinión, which was the largest Spanish language paper, was a very fast-growing newspaper, had 150 people in the newsroom. I think it's down to 3. So these issues are serious ones.
For Annenberg Media, Hannah Dean.
America has a problem.
A social justice organization that pushes for the local government to dedicate more resources to minority neighborhoods held a rally today in downtown Los Angeles. The Reimagine LA Coalition is looking to persuade the county to maintain its support in the face of pending funding cuts. Michael Liu has the story.
Reimagine LA supporters turned out today at the Board of Supervisors building to support and protect funding for community programs in Los Angeles County. Outreach and organizing coordinator of the Reimagine LA Coalition, Mia Hendricks, spoke to the protesters.
We all know that. We're not happy with the funding that we're getting. Departments are getting cut. Our communities are suffering, and so I just thank you all for your continued advocacy and coming out to support our community members and advocating for a just budget in LA County.
Guest speakers from the LA Black Worker Center, the Social Justice Learning Institute, Youth Justice Coalition, Trans Latina Coalition, the Black Lives Matter movement, and many more social justice organizations took turns speaking on the impacts of funding cuts and thanked community members for attending the LA County supplemental budget hearing today. Community programs and other social justice funding in LA are facing massive budget cuts that could reach $300 million or more, according to the Chief Executive Office of the LA County. These programs have been funded since local funding measures following the death of George Floyd in 2020. But last year, a drafting oversight related to recent legislation might undo that increased allocation of money. Back in 2020, Measure J was passed. It was a ballot measure which directed funding away from law enforcement and into community programs, especially in black and brown neighborhoods. Last year, Measure G was passed, and is set to go into effect in 2028. It would basically overwrite Measure J and its social justice allocations. The effects mean fewer resources for people like Michael Trouse. Trouse was 16 when he entered the program by Whole Systems Learning. They're a Long Beach-based nonprofit that creates safe, innovative spaces for youth and adults to grow, learn, and thrive.
The program stepped in for me. Whole Systems Learning used grant funding to buy me clothes, provide food, transportation, job placement, and so much more. The classes helped me face my family trauma and take care of my mental health.
The Los Angeles Board of Supervisors holds a supplemental budget meeting every week, and attendance could help encourage lawmakers to create change. For Annenberg Media, I'm Michael Liu.
And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. Maricruz Villalobos executive produced today's show. Katie Havens and Amy Contreras produced today's show. We also had help from Lizzie Leoto, Maribel Flores, Cassidy Hudson, and Carl Masad.
Our audio director is Leslie Berestein Rojas. Our board operators is Sam Bittman and Victor. Our live stream manager is Rafael Posto. And Derek Renfro composed our theme music.
Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio. Sorry. Catch us. Sometimes you laugh at the credits. Catch us live on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News. Subscribe to From Where We Are, wherever you're listening right now. Finally, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Annenberg Radio. I'm Carlota.
And I'm Amy Contreras. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.
Amy, we were going to talk about the MLB playoffs, but I feel like I just have to say I'm very sorry that I laughed, but I'm even more happy that we have this opportunity to thank Victor Figueroa, who stepped in to be our board op. So thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.
See you next time.
See you next time. Have a nice evening, everyone.